Welcome, everybody. This is Emotional Intelligence 2. I'm Scott Patton, your co-host, along with Bob Juris. Hey, Bob, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Scott. Delighted to be here.
Awesome. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about high-quality organizations. And before we do, just make sure that if you're on YouTube that you hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of our shows. Also, and if you're on Facebook, make sure that you like whatever page it is or group that you see this in, or join. I guess you don't have to like. If you're in the group, you'll always get the notifications. And the last thing is, what's the last thing? Make sure that you ask questions, leave comments, because we're live. And if we're not live when you're watching this, we also still see the comments, so you can just put a comment in if you've got a question or you think something is insightful. And with that, Bob, we're going to get started. Emotional intelligence, the level 2, the next level is what we are all about. And today we're going to talk about high quality organizations. So I guess the first thing is, why bother having build a high quality organization in your business?
Everybody likes to talk about emotional intelligence from the individual standpoint. You think about, if I'm smarter, if I'm happier, things are going to be great. And that's a great foundation. But you want to build an engaged organization where people invest in the company invests in them emotionally. Your productivity gets incredibly higher, and everybody enjoys being there. It's fun. It's a fun place to be. I don't know about you, Scott, but I like fun.
Yep, I do too. So what are some of the key variables that people need to recognize when they're looking at making a high quality organization?
Well, you build it from the ground up. You look for emotional intelligence when you recruit people. You train for it regularly. One of the big mistakes organizations make is they just train leadership in emotional intelligence. But you need to train everybody from customer service throughout. You need to make it the norm. And then it's almost the Zig Ziglar comment. A lot of companies have this attitude that says, well, we taught it 2 years ago. We don't need to do it again. And it's sort of a recognition that you need to do it on a regular, continuing basis.
So there's a lot of different aspects to emotional intelligence, particularly as we teach it. Are there any that you would focus on first? So someone's got an organization, they've just heard about emotional intelligence, and say, okay, we need to get into this a lot more, but we all know that you can't eat an elephant in one bite. So where would you suggest that they start?
Well, I think you said it indirectly, but you're right on topic. You've got to get key people to buy into this is important and we need to do this. And you get people, I guess, winding up not eating the heart of the elephant, but eating different parts. Because what happens is we say we want diversity in the organization. Well, if you want diversity, emotional intelligence. I want to eliminate bullying. Start with emotional intelligence. I want to have better leadership. Let's have some emotional intelligence. And if people realize how pervasive the concept is and get a few key people championing the cause on a regular basis, it becomes really dynamic and really invaluable throughout.
So we talk a lot about values, rewards, priorities, self-management, self-awareness. Is there any area that you would suggest that they begin when it comes to the actual training?
Well, the two keys are always the experiences people have and the relationships they get. I've been at too many organizations where the leaders think they're leaders, but they're really administrators. They don't connect personally with their people. We don't have live chats. Instead, we're issuing memos, maybe email, and walking over to somebody's desk, office, maybe have lunch with them, develop that relationship. And it's fascinating to me how people remember relationships and experiences, and they forget I can't remember a memo I've ever received in a company right now when I come to think of it, but I remember relationships and I remember people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And so, how do you design the culture that you want in your organization?
Well, the key is our emotions are highly contagious. And leadership is the nexus for those emotions. If you're going to be absentee, you're creating a vacuum. And you're going to get whatever fills the vacuum to fill that vacuum. So if leadership recognizes it's going to be the nexus for the emotions, you start looking for, what do I want to have as the climate and the culture around here? Do I want people to be happy, excited, energized? Well, you'd better reflect those things. On the other hand, if you want to have a sullen, quiet, stodgy old place, well, go back to the 60s and get the thick pile carpet, stay in your office, hire some people, and hope that things work out for the best. Although I wouldn't recommend it.
Right. So we're living in a world of incredible change. I mean, there's been no greater change than we've seen in the last probably 8 or 9 months worldwide. So
Right.
how do you manage that change in organizations?
Well, I'm going to go back to Mary Kay because she had it right. Uh, make everybody feel special. Can I send them a personal note? Can I pick up the phone and call them? Can I show up? Maybe can I have a virtual party? And nowadays, the answer that I'll try and tell people is be a little bit creative. If you want to have a party on YouTube, do it. Have a party with Zoom. Hop in all the technologies. Use things to be different. Can we play Trivial Pursuit on the internet? Sure, we can. And there's a whole array of possibilities that you need to expand. You need to try out. You need to see what works, and you need to create that fun culture. You need to have people who are enjoying and engaged. And when I say engaged, I always try and tell people it's about the head and the heart. So you want to get people who are where they want to be, doing what they want to do.
I think that's a really, really good point in that I've been working with a number of experts overseas, and sometimes they get in the wrong job. Like there's oftentimes people will say, yeah, I mean, this is what I was told when working as a solopreneur. If someone asks you if I can do something, the answer is yes. And then you figure it out afterwards. And that's a kind of it's one of those things that if you do that 100%, you're really going to run into a lot of problems. And it also depends on where you are in terms of your business and your focus and your direction. And I've had people that have said, yeah, I can do that. And there was two things. One was they didn't really know how to do it aside from a really basic. I know how to open the program and sort of, change the color of the image and nothing else. If it was an image type job, which it wasn't, and I hate doing it was the other thing, right? Like they would never say it, but the results screamed, this is something that I just don't want to do. And the easy thing would have been to just say, well, goodbye, I'll find somebody else that can do in this. Let's just say it was making an image. And, but there were other things that other needs that the organization had. And so we said, well, not really into this job, but what about this task and this project? And of course they did the same thing. They said, oh yeah. And they were all enthusiastic, except they didn't like doing that job either. And we were really, frustrated because it was obvious that the quality of the work was suffering. And of course our clients were noticing and we needed to do something. So it was like, okay, you're not the person for that. And then it was, well, what about this task? And finally we found a project or a series of of tasks that fit this individual well. And all of a sudden, I went from hearing from everybody, blah, 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 negative about this person because they were all being made look bad. They were all looking bad because he was dragging them all down to, oh, it's such a difference. It's so good. And on and on and on she goes. So taking the person and finding what they love, I think is really, really key. And if they don't love what they're doing, then moving them into a place where they do love. And sometimes it takes a little creativity and work to actually make that happen, because we're all, this is the job, and if you can't do the job, go somewhere else, usually.
And we all get into different things. When I was young, you bring back my youth, BC, before computers. I heard the magic title of controller in a corporation. That sounded so cool and powerful. So I got a master's degree in accounting, and I became a controller. And I had to do accounting every day. Gee whiz, somebody expects an accountant to do accounting. That may sound ridiculous, but I was stunned. Of the job sounded terribly wonderful, and I was involved in applied tedium on a day-to-day basis. There are other people who love that job, but it wasn't me. And I was too young to realize that, I needed to be doing something else.
Right. Yeah. I was in the same position. I worked for a grocery store, managing them all over British Columbia, Canada for 20 years. And after 19 years, I discovered that I was grinding my teeth down because I was so stressed, and I was putting on weight, and everybody in my position who was 10 years older than me was having heart attacks, nervous breakdowns, or or getting obese. And I thought, well, I'm no different. I'm no smarter than these people, because a system is something where you put something in one end and something comes out the other end. I don't know which way I should be pointing. And I was in this system, and I could see the results, the human results, obviously. It was obvious once I stopped and became more aware of what was going on around me and in my position in other stores. And then I thought I had to do something else. Unfortunately, in most of those years, a lot of people would learn one skill and get one job and stay there for 40 years. And I think that stage of our existence lasted for about, I would say, 50, maybe 60 years from the actual beginning to the end. And that's not to say that you can't get a job now and be there 40 years. I think you certainly can. But it's, we talk about the millennials having, 8 jobs before they're 30 sort of thing, or 8 careers before they're 30. And this whole thing it was kind of the beginning of like, nobody did that. Right. And I remember I was at a staff, wasn't really a staff meeting at my store, but it was kind of like a staff meeting at the head office, and for new employees. And one of them was going to be a clerk and asked, why would anybody ever leave this job? And the instructor, the leader at the front, had a hard time answering that question honestly. Right. But I'm sitting there, I've got my resignation written out. I'm waiting to hand it in, and this question comes up, and I'm like, oh, dear me, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. But we get into things, and in the beginning we're really enthusiastic, but the enthusiasm can dissipate quite quickly if we're not using the principles of emotional intelligence.
Well, to me, what's fascinating is managers get lost, and we're taught the wrong things in school. How do you motivate employees? You don't motivate anybody. They motivate themselves. How many managers walk in saying, how can I celebrate these people? How can I make today fun? What can I do to make everybody feel special? I've heard very few leaders with those things on their agenda of make them feel special, make it fun. Let's celebrate these people. Those are maybe late afterthoughts at best, from my experience.
They are, because nobody really thinks of them as being super important. But I guess the question is, do you want to have your customer service people happy or frustrated and upset when they're dealing with your customers?
Well, that's not our policy, Scott.
Do you want to have your salespeople frustrated and upset or happy when they're dealing with potential customers? And then if you're in the organization, your customer is a fellow employee or worker or contractor, do you want them to be upset and mad, or do you want them to be happy when they're, giving you what you need in order to do your job well? And it's funny how we can pay lip service to, we want happy, productive employees. And then we do things like, I know that it's your son's birthday tomorrow, but you have to stay and work late.
Well, the beatings are going to continue until motivation improves. That seems to be the sign at many organizations.
So in your experience, Bob, because you've been doing this for a long time, do you think organizations are getting more emotionally intelligent or the same as what they were 40 years ago? Do you see any differences?
Unfortunately, I'm going to give a disappointing answer and say I don't see that much change. I see more lip service. I don't see management and leadership as focused on making people celebrate, making them feel special, making this a fun place. I see too many organizations, leaders generated on the bottom line, on let's make the accountants rule us. Let's create that package. And with a little coaching and a little adjustment in the focus, we can get to where we want. And the key these days is organizations are succeeding better when they start developing internal coaching and set up the coaching at all levels. People are not outsiders. They need to be part of everything. If you're not changing for the better, you're drifting towards the worse.
So what I hear you say is every level of the organization, and even if it's getting flatter and flatter, which they tend to be these days, should be trained in the principles of emotional intelligence so that they can all be talking the same language and also be moving in the same direction.
Exactly. It's impossible to get emotional intelligence if we put it on the back burner. We need to reward it. We need to prioritize it. We need to get people to invest in the organization. Companies like that, but then we need to invest in people. And it's not just about money. And too many organizations are thinking, well, if Scott's not happy, let me give him a raise. And not happy, probably, a few days that raise may feel really good. And whatever were the underlying causes of your unhappiness, they didn't change. You just got paid better to be unhappy. And I'm not sure being paid better to be unhappy is any better in the long run.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because you remind me of when I was married, early in my marriage. My wife was a dental hygienist. She worked for a Greek dentist, and she would come home every day upset, and because she felt he was nitpicky. But I mean, she's a dental hygienist and you're cleaning teeth, so the dentist has to go and whatever, right? But so she has this story going on in her head. And finally I said, if you're unhappy, lots of jobs for dental hygienists, quit. So she says, okay, I'm going to quit. So she goes in, she tells him, she comes home. I say, how'd it go? He gave me a raise. What? Yeah. So I'm staying. Okay. A month goes by, 30 days of complaining about this guy because he never changed. And I said, well, quit. So she goes in and she tells him she's quitting. How did it go? He gave me a raise. So the third time I said, don't accept the raise. Go get another job. And what I reckon, there's a couple things that I think about now when I look back on that. One was she wasn't happy, and I don't think it mattered what he did. She wasn't going to be happy. So there's the aspect of you need to be able to figure out why you're unhappy, and that person that you're pointing at, accusing of making you unhappy is not the problem. And then there's he is also a problem because he can do things that would make everything better in his organization. Obviously, someone was unhappy. Maybe everybody was unhappy, or there was a misunderstanding in terms of roles and what a dentist is supposed to do with a dental hygienist. So it was kind of like he's not at fault, but he is at fault, right? Because there's the internal, I can be happy or unhappy, and I can interpret what you're doing as supportive or unsupportive, because I'm pretty sure all he did was walk in, say hi to her, say hi to the patient, go in, because I've been in enough dentist chairs, they go and they look around and then go, okay, looks good, and leave. And maybe she's the sort of person that needed, the pat on the back and good job, or, and that would have helped make her happy. But she needed to learn emotional intelligence because she had a lot of unawareness about what was making her unhappy. And
so did he.
And so did he, right? Because obviously he only had one tool in his toolbox, which was give her a raise and she'll be happy. And of course, the money wasn't what was going to make her happy.
I suspect when she quit, Scott, that he was probably wondering what was wrong with this woman, because she wasn't happy. I gave her a raise, and she should have suddenly been happy. What's her problem?
Right.
She's a strange lady. And that's why I say people very often don't, if you don't make that relationship, if you don't make the experiences, you don't even know what's happening. He didn't know that if she came in and said, I'm unhappy, I'm not getting paid enough here, that's one issue. But basically she's saying I'm unhappy, and she wasn't saying anything about the pay from the story you related.
That's right. She was happy with the pay. The pay was a non-issue, but he wasn't. Yeah. So this is one of the main quadrants of emotional intelligence, right? Relationship management. Exactly. And the other one is self-awareness. If they were both more self-aware, because she never went into him and said, and not that I'm taking her side versus his side, I just think it's an interesting dynamic.
It's sad.
I'm unhappy. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with how you behave around me. And he may say, well, I'm Greek. This is how we behave. And it's no big deal. I think you're doing a great job, but we don't pat. I mean, I know lots of Greeks that are totally like huggy and, friendly and happy and all the rest of it. So this is only an individual. And I don't even know why I brought up his nationality, but it's just what stuck out in my mind, right? But he could say it. This is the way I was raised in my family, and we don't give high praise. And if you need that, then you need to decide if I'm self-aware enough to be able to recognize in myself and then change it, or it's just, accept that when I don't say anything, I like your job, and then she can deal with that from her side.
Well, you're spot on, because when you develop the relationship, you understand the communication people need or don't need. There's an old bad joke about a husband and wife who get married, and at the wedding day, the husband said, I promise to love you forever. And 30 years later, the wife comes up to the husband and says, sweetheart, you've never told me you love me. And he said, well, 30 years ago, I told you I loved you. If anything had changed, I would have told you. But somehow or another, she wanted to hear it more than once every 30 years.
And I think she's not alone in that.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, we've come to the end of our time today, Bob. It's been awesome. Some really good information, particularly about high quality organizations. Do you have any last comments, or maybe a tip for managers or business owners on terms of how they can take some steps to improving their organization?
Well, the obvious one is call us, get us involved, get another set of eyes on what's happening in your organization. We do coaching and training. You can contact me on LinkedIn. You can contact me at 407-928-4423. And let's make that a fun place to be.
Can you get that phone number again?
407-928-4423. We are in the United States.
There you go. There's the number, everybody. And we also have a course on emotional intelligence for smart organizations that just came out. There's the big long Udemy URL. I'm going to put it into the comment section so everybody can just go in the comments and you'll be able to get it. And so with that, Robert, thank you very much for joining us today. We do this every week on Wednesdays at 9 Eastern. So I'm just going to put in the comments now before we take off. There you go. And if you're on YouTube, you can get it. And if you're on Facebook, you can get it. And there's one of the places that you can get it. Awesome. So, and if you're on Periscope, we have it on Periscope as well. So thank you very much, Bob. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe this. Tell your friends. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the comment section. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Emotionally Smart Week.